Hello, everyone. Nothing to talk about today. We're just gonna hang out
Oh yeah,
and
Cool,
not
dude.
get into
no
all the things.
controversy. Everything's beautiful. It's sunny in Buffalo.
Sorry, it's so early.
The sun is out here.
No, it's a fantastic day. I'm gonna be cleaning my deck today. Can't wait.
Power wash.
Power washing my deck. Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic. Good luck.
Yeah, you can't beat it. You can't beat it at all. My San Jose Sharks fan last night just texted me the playoffs are the Christmas gift that keeps giving to the Sharks. I'm like, yep, basically.
We'll get to that in a minute, though.
You go ahead and start. Russ.
All right. So, did you say go ahead and fart?
I said go ahead and start, Russ.
Okay. Because that's what it sounded like on my computer. Anyhow, here's we're going to talk about the Jets for one more minute because yesterday, after everything cleared, and this really goes for any sport, just imagine a sport where the owner is okay with firing the GM and the director of player personnel, and then basically says, yeah, right now the coach who never coached a game for the team is the interim GM.
No, but let's correct here. This is the owner's brother. The owner is the ambassador to the court of St. Jude.
No, he is the owner now. He signed over the team to him. You know, they probably traded a few Band-Aids and some stock, and he is the owner. Anyhow, so just imagine, I want to say it was probably 10 minutes after they said, hey, you're the interim GM, and of course he has no GM in experience, he goes and trades a linebacker. So I go and I look at the depth on the Jets. They didn't draft a linebacker, and they already had one linebacking spot open, and now, son of a gun, they've got another one open. And look, I get that he was a former first-round pick and maybe hasn't lived up to potential, but he's still a decent NFL player that you didn't have to spend a mint on to go out and get. Like, I just don't get it. If I had a lot of money and I could own a team, I actually would leave it up to the executives, and all I would do is manage. And if those two fools would have come into my office and fighting like that, I would have been like, you're under contract, work it out. We're not doing any of this. But instead, they did the worst possible scenario.
This is how interested Eck is in football.
Yeah, I don't care. You know what?
Just no, but
I would do that for soccer. I would do that for if I was managing his rock band or pop band. I don't care. He can walk away. Fine.
Yeah. Well, what's a bigger travesty? What Russ just described, or the fact that James Dolan offered the Eagles a discount at Madison Square Garden if he could open up for them. He's like, we'll only charge you $200,000 in rent or whatever for the if you let JD and the Hustlers or whatever the hell his band's name is open up for you. I mean, heck, would you be prepared to do that? Would you give a discount if you could open up for the Eagles?
Oh, absolutely.
Of course you would, but you know what? If I were the Eagles,
the honest to God truth is anyone would. I mean, like the competitiveness of opening slots is really intense, and
sure.
and there's lots of people that pay. Record companies pay a ton of money to get bands to open on tour for other people. You know, it's like it's not uncommon at all that if you're a big band, you're going to make a lot of money from your opener. That's typical stuff.
Well, it's funny because last week the Who were in town, and I won't go see the Who again because I saw them in the 80s, I saw them in the 90s, and now it's karaoke basically.
No, I think it's better than that, Mike.
I saw them.
Mick Jagger dancing.
No.
No.
Like a dancing skeleton. I don't need to watch it, but no, I mean,
no, this is crazy.
So, but I saw Townsend and Daltrey when Entwistle was still alive, and it was closer to the actual Who, so I wasn't going to waste money to go see them now. But the funny thing is, in Buffalo, the opening act was a band from Southern Ontario called the Arkells, who are big in Canada. And some people think they're like the new Tragically Hip. I don't know about that, but they're a good band. But I have friends who went to that show to see the Arkells and then left because they didn't like the Who.
No, you know what? That's ridiculous. I want to tell you something. I saw the Who two or 3 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago, and they were still very good. Like Simon Townsend is actually surprisingly good.
Yeah. No, if I got a ticket, if I get a ticket for free, Russ, if like they could have walked out and given me their ticket, I would have gone to see the Who. I just didn't want to pay $100 to go see.
Is Daltrey's voice the same? No, but is it still pretty good? Yes. Is
All right,
Townsend
guys, check
still
this
really
out.
good? Yes. Actually, Townsend's better now than when he was losing his hearing because he doesn't have to play in a bubble.
So Mick Jagger just had a surgery to replace a heart valve.
Right.
He's 75 years old. Okay. And he posted this video yesterday on his Instagram feed of him working out yesterday. This valve was like replaced last week.
I was gonna say he. Oh, okay.
So this is like Mick Jagger, just like putting this out there. This is like a 75-year-old man.
There could be strings attached to him, Eck.
I mean, it's just insane. I mean, isn't that cool or what? I mean, that's incredible.
I think they're electroshocking him. I don't even care.
Yeah,
It's just crazy. I mean, to be able to, I mean, at 75, the guy works out, works on
I'll give
all
him
day long.
I'll give him all the credit for adopting a healthy lifestyle after what he used to do in the 60s and 70s, and I'll give him all the credit. I've never had a desire to go see the Stones.
Oh, I did.
I'm not a Rolling Stones fan myself, but I'm just saying that
I did have a desire once, and I didn't get tickets. There's two things I'll say about this for real. I was obviously goofing around. The first thing is I could give you a secret, and this is probably the secret to Mick Jagger's health, is that he's a big egg cream guy. Anytime he was in Manhattan, my dad worked around the corner from this great egg cream place, and he would see Mick Jagger there a lot. So Mick Jagger was an egg cream guy, so obviously that didn't hurt him. But the problem with Mick Jagger is his voice is really shot. It's been shot for 10 years.
Yes, their new tour is going to be called the Steel Wheelchair Tour.
No, I mean, I could see the band could still play, but I can't listen. Yeah, I didn't think it was a good one, Mike. You could do better.
I've been getting voice training. I don't know to see what he sounds like. He's been working on that apparently. Okay. The guy is just ridiculous. No, I've never been a fan of the Rolling Stones. I've never been a fan of the Rolling Stones. And that's nothing against Rolling Stones. It's just not my cup of tea.
But let me just ask you: have you ever gone to a concert where you went for the opening act and not for the main act, and left before the main act?
Left before? No, I mean, if I'm out, I mean, when you're, I don't know, when you're married and have kids, it's like for 20 years. If you're out, you're not going home anytime soon. You're gonna you're getting a chance to do it.
Well, I don't have kids, and I did do that. We went to what's the outdoor festival in Delaware?
There's a bunch.
No,
Coachella.
No, but it's like Coachella. Anyhow,
the Philly Folk Festival. No, I don't.
No, it's a massive.
That would be in Delaware. That would not be in Delaware, obviously.
Yeah, it's in Dover.
That's my birthplace. I don't know of it.
Oh my God, this thing is fake.
But yeah, I don't continue.
Okay. Anyhow, we went and we knew 30 Seconds to Mars was playing, and there were a couple bands beforehand. So we saw the few bands beforehand. Obviously, there's bands it's Firefly. There's bands every 10 minutes playing on 5 different stages. So we went, we saw them, we walked around, we listened to a few other bands, we went back for Muse. And we left after a song. We were like, forget it. It's not even worth it. And we just went home.
Yeah, I always thought they were a little bit overrated.
Yeah, I thought Muse was very overrated. And
there's a lot of Canadians love Muse, obviously, but
yeah,
I don't know. I'm not a real big. I don't know.
I think I
actually played the Firefly Festival. You said it's Firefly Festival. I'm like, okay, sorry, I don't remember that.
Yeah, it's a great time. It was just one of those things where I can't invest time into something if I don't like it.
Yeah.
And so I've gotten to the point where, so you listen to a band, and if it's just not hitting you after a couple songs, like the opener should always hit you, right? Like bands know that, and no band plays a crap song for the opener. Nobody. Usually it's something upbeat and something they know that either the crowd hasn't heard in a while or that the crowd really likes. Then they sort of settle into other stuff. So we gave it a couple songs, and then we were like, you know what, forget it.
Now,
opening is one of the most fun things to do as a band. I just to say, because first of all, you're going in, and it's not your responsibility to sell the house, right? So you're going in without, and the biggest stress of a band is going to do a show and knowing that you've got to sell all the tickets. That's always stressful. We've been in situations. We were fortunate that we never had trouble selling tickets because we played in the right. We had good bookers who put us in the right size venues. But we would have had trouble selling bigger. Like we could have sold we could sell like 1,000 to 2,000 seat places. But if you put us in 10,000 seat place, we would have had trouble.
Right.
But but when you open, you can go into a 10,000 seat place like we did a lot with Fleetwood Mac, we did with Crosby, Stills and Nash, and we did with Richard Marx too, which I know doesn't sound like one, not like the other, but Richard Marx was so nice. I always had to bring it up.
Yeah.
He was always so nice to us. But yeah, and then you go in and there's no pressure on you, and you can go and actually surprise people, because remember, this is the day and age when I was opening, at least before the internet, where it was hard to actually discover new music in any way, shape, or form. Like you had to hear it on the radio, you had to be lucky. I mean, you weren't going to just find something through a group that you liked who recommended somebody else. It was really hard. So you had the ability to be that, like, hey, this is new music you guys don't know about. It was fun. Opening was fun. I mean, you play a quick, 4 or 5 songs and you're out of there.
Well, I'll just finish on this. Usually that's there have been opening acts that have opened up for people that I've seen that have impressed me, and I've bought their albums and things of that nature. But when I saw the Police, and I think it was 2009 when they did their reunion tour, the band that opened up was a band called Fiction Plane. And they went on for over an hour, and I'm like, it was the longest.
That's so stupid.
It was dreadful. It was over an hour long. Nobody wanted to listen to them. Everybody wanted to see the Police. And then I found out from somebody who I was sitting next to that the reason, who is this band? Where are they from? Sting's son was in this band.
Oh, I see.
And that was the reason for the opening act. Fine.
That's why I gave him a long time. But Sting should know better, because Sting should know that he should know better. Sting should, Sting's putting his son out in a bad way then, because honestly, if my son's opening for us, he's playing and to my crowd, which was just there to see us or whatever, I'm giving him 5 songs, and I'm saying do 5 songs because you want them to just like think that's really cool that was his son, and I love that. I come out and I introduce this is my son's band, 5 songs, you're off. Bam, that's it.
X got a great point, because Billy Joel Armstrong's son is in a band, and it's pretty good. I've seen them, but he doesn't have them warming up for Green Day. That would be a mistake.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Anyway, let's move on here. We got to get started today, and I'm going to fix this whole situation. I figured it out this morning.
Oh yeah, sure you will.
I do. I have it. I think you guys are going to agree. I think this show is going to be transformative. This show is going to change the entire NHL today. Today's podcast is going to change the way things are done in the NHL. Okay. I've already said this idea.
I must end the show now.
Bill Daly, Gary Bettman, they already all have this idea. I've already sent this idea along to the powers to be. This because I think this is that good. Ready? Here we go. How's that for teaser? Hello, Hockey World. It's Thursday, May 16th, 2019.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund. You're watching the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And we have another crazy controversy, another referee controversy. And of course, you guys all saw it last night. The overtime goal, an obvious, blatant hand pass. And there's so many levels of this, but let's first talk about the goal itself, and then we'll talk about how we can actually fix it. But the obvious thing, I mean, this is it. I see the hand pass as the play is going on, and I'm like, oh, it's a hand pass. It's so blatant. How do 4 referees miss that? That is the most incredible part of this thing. So
that is the big thing. I even tweeted to Marty Baron, because he was saying, if you think that it's microscopic for the offside, if this were reviewable, this would get microscopic. I get all that. The bigger problem is that these referees are out of position still, no matter how many you have of them. Yeah. And it's unforgivable, because that play should be whistled dead the minute it happens. It shouldn't matter if it hit another player. None of that matters.
There was a picture of the positioning of the referees. There was 2 referees at the center ice red line, 1 at the blue line, and the 4th official was behind the net. But the angle for him between Meyer and him, there was a Blues player that obscured his view. So they didn't. The explanation was they didn't see it. But as for why the goal counted, I mean, everybody's like, "Oh, why isn't this being?" It's not reviewable.
It was so frustrating watching the broadcast and them not telling people that it wasn't reviewable. Like, I'm sitting there and
that's true. You're right. They didn't do that. They said
they didn't do it for a very long time. Like until the referees were off the ice, did they even say? And it was crazy to me, like, because that was the first thing I said right away to my wife. I'm like, damn, that they missed that, but that's not reviewable. I'm saying that right away to her. I'm like, within seconds, that's not reviewable. They can't review that. If they missed it, they missed it. That's how it's going to go down. which is the dumbest rule in the world. We're going to talk about that, but the fact is that they missed it like that, and the fact that the 4 of them missed it is where you blame the refs, and that's where the ref blaming has to stop, because they missed it.
No,
because they can't do anything
doesn't have to stop. I disagree with that, because it's hit a new low these playoffs. It is now definitely affecting the outcome of games. If you want to say, hey, they should have hit the empty net, that's great, but that doesn't always happen. But a game shouldn't matter and shouldn't have ended because of that call. It shouldn't have.
Right.
Now, if you don't want to make that play reviewable, that's fine. But then they do need to put in a caveat, because Toronto is seeing everything and everything is on tape. And if they see something egregious like that, whether, again, it's a massive penalty that's not called or it's a massive infraction that's not called, somebody has to put a stop to it. You can't let the game end like that. So I heard on Twitter, I'm assuming this is true, that Doug Armstrong pounded once or twice on the referee's door and said, this is BS, and walked away. He would never do that. He's
now for him to say that
guy.
Oh yeah, now for him to do that, it's absolutely absurd. It's incredible that the 4 of them missed it. The positioning, I mean, the play was in the zone long enough that there could have been somebody else in the zone as well. If you're going to have 2 referees on the ice, which I've always thought is a mistake, to be honest, and I'll tell you why I think it's a mistake to have 2 referees on the ice. But I honestly do believe, I'll get to my solution, that there needs to be a referee in the box up top there, which would help things immensely. But but that's part of the whole solution. So let me give you my idea here. Let me just throw my idea out, because we've seen so many things happen here, and I spent the whole a long time last night, a long time this morning, just like pondering this and like figuring out what we are trying to actually accomplish here, which to me at the end of the day is what we need to figure out. Like we need to, because we changed the 2 things that have become reviewable recently are offsides and goalie interference, and they both became reviewable after egregious instances, right? It took something terrible like the Duchesne offsides, and I forget who the goalie interference thing was, but I think it was one Varlamov for some reason. I remember, I don't know why, but anyway, there's these 2 instances that now cause these 2 things to be reviewable. All right. At that point, we have now lost control of this thing, because we are reviewing things based on things that happen. We're reacting to everything instead of trying to actually fix the problem, and here's what I think needs to happen. I think it's so simple. We need to we need to get rid of challenges altogether. Challenges are ridiculous. Get rid of the choices challenge. No, it's a stupid thing, because first of all, the one thing here's what I say. Listen to my whole idea, and then you can tear it apart.
Yeah.
Here's the one thing that should never, we got to get out of the review mindset is penalties. Penalties are not reviewable in any way, shape, or form. And they're talking about how the high stick, in Vegas, they blew that, but you can't review penalties. You can't review cross checks. That part is the human aspect of refereeing. That's just refereeing to me. The ref makes the call. You just got to live with that. And they're going to make bad calls. That's not a goal. That's a penalty, could turn into a goal, but it's still just a penalty that occurs. And to me, those mistakes are going to happen. I'll even include in that the shooting the puck out of the rink thing or whatever. I think that has to be a referee's call, not reviewable. But here's what we need. Here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to keep instances from happening like this one. And the way to do that is really simple. You put somebody up in a booth. After every single goal that happens, you wipe out all this stuff, offsides, everything's reviewable within 10 seconds of a goal. Okay, so to me, what you have to do is the second the goal goes in, no matter what happens with the goal, no matter what time it is, the referee up top, we have the technology that he gets immediately, his screen goes back to the last 10 seconds that happened. He gets to watch that while the players are celebrating, cheering, going to the bench, slapping hands. The upstairs referee is viewing the last 10 seconds. And if he sees something that was missed in there, the puck hit the netting. Say there was an offsides that happened that directly correlated to the goal. Say, it was hand passed or a high, because a high stick pass to a player could have happened and he scored. Whatever was missed, whatever infraction happens within 10 seconds of that goal that directly leads to that goal. Mm-hmm. If he sees something, then he calls down right away and says, we've got a problem. And then the refs convene. If he doesn't see anything within the 10 seconds of the goal, tough luck. Because if you missed the offsides 20 seconds ago, you had time to get the puck out of the zone. If you made a high stick 10 seconds is a long time. If you count off 10 seconds before every goal, it's a lot happens in hockey. 10 seconds.
Hold on.
So to me, If you just do this and have this, bam, you're done. Or, so there's two instances when the referee, in my opinion, would communicate with the guy up top. One would be if he sees something he missed, or the other, every time a goal is waved off, it's automatically reviewed up top. Just automatically. You automatically review it because there aren't many goals that are waved off. A goal's waved off, he says, you kicked it. That's automatic review. That's nothing. It's just, and referees on the ice are going to be fine with that. That's an automatic review. That's how it goes.
The problem. Sorry.
To me, that gets rid of all of this crap. If are we reviewing when pucks go out of play? No, we shouldn't all the time. If it goes off the netting and nothing happens as a result of it, fine, let the play continue. Are we reviewing this offsides? No, it was close enough. The refs, the linesmen are good enough to usually get the offsides. If it was a millisecond that happened 35 seconds ago, no, that doesn't have anything to do with the goal.
All right. The first thing is I agree with you in terms of reviewing penalties because penalties are subjective. Are some calls missed or some calls over officious, like the Eakin call? I mean, I don't even know if it should have been a 2-minute penalty, let alone a 5 in a game. Yes, so you accept that. I think that if you go down the road of the NFL where they review every touchdown, you're going to increase the time for games significantly because it's going to take them time with all the goals that are happening throughout the league. If they do it centrally in Toronto, or even if they ferry it out to the different locations, it's going to take time for them to review those goals. Even if it's a no-brainer, it's going to take them at least a few seconds. And if it's a controversial goal, it's going to take as long as it's taking right now. Where I think the solution here is similar to it's getting to be similar to the NFL now after the New Orleans Rams controversy. Have coaches have 2 or 3 reviews, depending on what they want, of anything, whether it be hand pass or offsides or goal or whatever, anything, but 2. And that's it. Now, yesterday, if they had used up their 2 reviews on something else, they'd have shit off.
Then we're not getting it right, Mike.
What's that?
We're not really getting it right. Then it's a judgment call on whether or not the guy should have wasted his challenge on this or wasted his challenge on that. This isn't a game. Hockey's not a game about whether or not a coach's challenge is right. To me, that's a ridiculous part of the game right now.
All right, then you know what? I'm going to call Elon Musk and we'll have a drone ref. That's all. And the drone ref will have all the rules of hockey downloaded into him, and the other refs will be able to look on their watch and see the replay if the drone ref says, your watch lights up and it buzzes and it's basically something's happened, and then this way nothing will be missed.
And that you hear my concept, right?
That drone ref will be high, by the way.
Russ, did you hear my concept?
I heard most of it. I didn't hear all.
The concept is simple. So put it this way. Everything is reviewable within 10 seconds of a goal, but it's reviewable up top immediately after the goal. The guy, when a goal is scored, the referee up top has a camera, immediately switches to a 10-second back thing. It plays through. He sees anything. Did they miss anything within those 10 seconds? If no, he doesn't yell down. If he sees something in there, the puck went out, maybe it hit the netting, maybe there was an offsides, maybe there was a high stick, maybe there's a pan pass, whatever.
I'm okay with that.
What?
I'm good with that.
I mean, doesn't that fix everything? Because it's like, and I know you could say, I'm picking 10 seconds randomly, but 10 seconds is a really long time. In hockey, it's a really long time. If you go back 10 seconds for every goal, if you can't do something to change it, if there was an offside that happened 20 seconds ago, that's on you. Like, if you got to get the puck out of the zone. You know what I mean? Right. It's like, to me, that's, sure it was missed, but it's like, we're like, what we do with offsides is the equivalent of a hand pass that happened 20 minutes ago. We go back to the hand pass and say no. It has to have led to goal. And anything that happens 10 seconds before a goal leads to a goal.
Offsides wasn't a problem yesterday. I mean, I know it's been an ongoing problem and a pain in the ass over the last few years in terms of the time that it takes and going back. I mean, honestly, offsides is settled by breaking the plane and not having a skate down on the ice. If that would cut down the number of offside reviewable calls, because it's all about the skate being down on the ice before the blue line.
I was thinking that, Mike, I thought that way too, but then I think that's really crazy complicated for no reason. Like, when you think about it, linesmen get 99% of the offsides right. And if an offsides happens like 10 seconds before a goal, it was part of the goal. It led to the goal. Otherwise, if they missed the offsides earlier, big deal. Like, they missed an offsides.
But
do we have to like, change this whole thing? Do we have to change everyone's thinking? That you can make it the plane, whatever you want to make it, but really,
what's worse? Let me ask you, what's worse? What's worse, a goal being scored as a result of an offside, or a goal being scored as a result as a hand pass? I'm going to say the hand pass is worse because
way worse.
Even non-hockey fans knew something was wrong with that.
I agree with that.
And but mainly because of when it happened in relation to the goal. Like it's directly correlated to the goal. Like if a guy high sticked a pass down to a guy who scored that, and he missed the high stick, it's the same kind of situation. It's an obvious thing that directly leads to that. But the weird thing with all this is that we have this like other concept that is so flawed in terms of the direct taking motion. Or remember a couple years ago, Colin Wilson on Nashville headed a goal in. Do you remember that play? It was against, I forget who it was against, but he jumps up and he headed the puck when it was up in the air. He headed it into the net, and they said no goal. And yet no one had any idea what to do with that because there's no rule that says you can't directly head a puck into the goal. But then so they went back and they said, basically they interpreted the rule of like any direct motion, like direct kicking motion, not just direct, but direct body motion that doesn't involve a stick is a foul. That's what they were saying, right? So. But yet, so they're saying that you can't on purpose score with something beside your stick. But at the same time, you can go in front of the net and on purpose have a puck deflect off of your body somehow, or you can on purpose redirect a puck with your skate. You can on purpose so we already do on purpose things without our sticks. So the whole hockey, I get that you shouldn't be able to. I get the whole direct handing in puck in the net or direct kicking the puck in the net or direct heading the puck in the net is wrong. But that's a weird line too. Like the whole concept of that is a strange line as well, because redirecting the puck, we've seen guys redirect with their skate, blade or whatever. That's like, what's the difference? To me,
I do want to answer some things in the chat room too. Like I think it was Mark that said, hey, why don't the NHL and the NHLPA huddle up and now make this, reviewable? And it's like, they're not going to do that. It looks bad enough at what happened now. It'll look 10 times bad if they all of a sudden change the rule in midstream. So no league would ever do that because they're not going to do that.
It'll communicate a lack of confidence in the officials. But the thing is, if you notice that some of the chatter on Twitter last night, I'm not talking about fans. I'm talking like Marty St. Louis coming out, or Rod Brindamore this morning in Carolina when asked a question about whether video review should be expanded, and he says, "Yeah, let's try to get things right." I mean, that was basically paraphrasing. And that's what I'm saying. Honestly, this is something that should have been reviewed, but I'm not saying we should expand review to plays that should be called by the officials. I'm saying as a coverall, you get 2 reviews on anything. If you think that was a non-call, or that a call that should have been blown dead, we can review that. And if it was a hand pass, then it would have been blown dead. So then they would have reversed it.
And I did feel for Bennington, who went up to the refs like with his hands like this, like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Well, did you see Braden Shen almost break the glass? He took a baseball at the glass.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and then the fact is that
players.
I wish I knew what the one referee said to Bennington, like as he was going off the ice there, because the one referee almost looked like, I said to my wife, it looks like he's admitting that we screwed up and it's not reviewable to Bennington. And Bennington just turned like dejected at that point, like he was like, that kind of thing, because and I'm assuming that's what he did, because refs are that way. They will be honest about it. They're not. They know they don't want to be the part of this like this. And that's why we have the technology to put somebody upstairs with an instant replay right away who can see this immediately before a coach can even decide to challenge it. We should know what the answer is. I do want to let people know I'm writing a mini series, the hand pass tale. And I'm trying to sell that now. I'm going to have Elizabeth Moss star in it, and she'll be the wife of Jordan Bennington, and this could be really good. So just stay tuned. I should have used that as my blog title. That's a great blog title.
Are they gonna get the everybody else from the West Wing, because she was on the West Wing too?
Yeah.
But Bill C says, the puck in the net. But the puck that hit the net, and the Panarin scored in the Boston. Yeah, that to me, that's within 5 seconds, of the goal scoring or whatever. That would have been caught, like it would have been found.
I don't know if you remember back when review was first thought about to being used, and the very beginning of it, there was a rule where if something happened, like it was a goal and it wasn't called, even if it was going to be 3 minutes later, at a stoppage of play, they'd review it, and if it was the case, they would award the goal, right?
Well, they do, and that's still in the books. That's still in the
and
books.
that's still in the book. So why can't they do that for a
Yeah,
penalty
okay, and I know replay was not in place at that
or an infraction?
But remember, and I don't know if you were at that game, Ak, but you remember the John Leclerc no goal?
Oh, I was definitely at that game, and I mean that was before replay, and it wasn't an option, and that
right, and Darcy Regier apparently was in the press box and banging on the door of the.
It was crazy. I mean, my seats. I was with my mom, and we were sitting 10 rows behind the net where John Leclerc scored that goal. And so where I am directly behind. I see Hasek there, and I see clear as day that Hasek has the post, and clear as day that the puck goes into the side. Right. And we're all freaking out because they're calling it a goal. And we know that at that point there was no instant replay review, but yeah, they put the replay up on the board still, and everybody saw that it went in the side of the net. Things like this are always going to happen, I mean, but I'm not saying that Toronto should constantly be reviewing anything, Thomas. Like he says, the idea of having Toronto constantly reviewing the ice would work without having the stoppage play. It can't be Toronto. It's got to be right there. It's got to be somebody in the building.
But my point is, Ak, is that you open up these officials to criticism and pressure from the local teams. And that's why they have it in Toronto. They're sequestered away from any kind of outside influence. I think that's what.
Come on, the referees they're already in the building. I mean, the referees. That's what they deal with all the time. I mean, that's a really lame thing.
Well, then, okay, take one of the referees off the ice and put them in the press box. But I think you're still going to keep Toronto there as a mechanism.
You can have Toronto if the referees can't agree on something,
right?
But you really don't need Toronto anymore. I mean, to me, you simply don't need it. Like, if the rule now that you're talking about, Russ, I think that where they can stop play is if a puck goes in the net, and continues on, they can stop play. But here's something else that occurred to me the other night. Okay, so check this out. I'm thinking about this. So I'm watching the game, and there was I forget which game it was. It was the Carolina game against Boston. Carolina's down by 1. They're trying to score.
Yeah,
and there's a play with about 45 seconds left that I think is probably offsides on Carolina. And Carolina brings it in the zone. It feels like it was slightly offsides, and the play continues. Boom, boom, boom. They're trying to score. They've got their goalie out, and and about 25 seconds goes off the clock. So now we're from 45 seconds to 20 seconds, and then I'm thinking to myself, you know what? So say Carolina scores here with 20 seconds to go, and then it's deemed that the play was offsides with 45 seconds to go when the play happened. That 25 seconds doesn't come back on the clock. So think about what happens there with Carolina. So if you're the Bruins and you think they're offsides, it behooves you to not stop the longer it goes before they score the goal, the better. Mm-hmm. Think about that for a second. It's a weird thing because that would really suck. Like, this whole offsides thing will be thrown into such a tizzy if that ever happens, where wait, so the play was the whole thing, the last 25 seconds didn't matter no matter what because it was offsides, and yet that 25 seconds isn't put back on the clock?
You know what? I'll tell you what I want to have happen from now on. When there's a blown call, I want the referee to go into the penalty box. I do.
Well, that would be good. I mean, and again, people so in the chat room, they're saying, it's a slippery slope. So Lincoln, who was once on the show, great guy, says in the chat room, is it not a slippery slope to eventually having plays stop because they didn't make a hooking call? And it is. That's why I don't believe penalties should be reviewable at all. I think penalties should not be reviewable. I think penalties are where you have to take the human factor of refereeing into account.
Can the referee get a Dunkin' Donuts coffee in the penalty box? Let me just touch on this because it obviously gets obscured because of the goal that shouldn't have counted. But I mean, the double whammy here is that St. Louis, I think, after the early part of the second period, dominated that game, and San Jose scores that goal, the Couture goal, less than a minute left in regulation. That was a game that St. Louis had to win, should have won, and didn't. And now I'm wondering about the mental and emotional ramifications of losing a game that you should have won. That's something that can, destroy teams. That can.
No, it's tough. It's a really tough loss for the Blues. Because the Sharks didn't play a good game. They really didn't. For the most of that game, the Sharks were not.
After the first period, you're right. I think
they really weren't.
Yeah.
The first 10 minutes of the first period the Sharks weren't good. I mean, the Sharks weren't good. Were good for like a brief period of that game, but for the most part, the Blues were better. And Jones made some really big saves down the stretch.
Big saves down the stretch.
Well, right, and it's funny thing is like I was joking, but on the fourth goal I was serious. I thought Jones. It was a bad goal.
Fine. I mean,
but the other ones, the one Perron goal was top corner. There was another one that was roofed. I mean, nobody can stop those goals. Those are impossible to stop.
The Tarasenko goal was one of the great goals of the playoffs, by the way.
That was an amazing goal. Yeah, an incredible shot.
It with a head of steam, with no hesitation, to be able to shoot it with that kind of force. Right up to the top. There's nothing a goalie can do. I don't even know. I don't even think that Jones saw it.
Absolutely nothing. And that quick of a release, like coming down the wing like that. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. It was like Mark Messier, Glenn Anderson-esque.
Yeah, that's why you don't trade that guy. When people were like, "Oh, trade. What about trading Tarasenko?"
Well, he's got some wild skills. He definitely does. I mean, he hasn't shown up for a lot of this series as well. So it's like
I know.
He's only scored on the power play.
Carlson just got his first goal last night in like 1,000 games.
Oh yeah, no, there's no. I mean, yeah,
he had a good game.
Yeah, and I have to say, because I said it during the game, there were instances in the second and early third period where Carlson was horrific in his own zone. He gave away the puck a couple times really badly. I mean, all is forgiven because he scored the overtime winner, but it's all erased.
I agree. I mean that is. Carlson's game to a degree has always never been like the most incredible stable influence in his own zone. And he's gotten worse as he's gotten older, for sure. But here's another thing I want to bring up that I think, and Philly 5-0 is bringing up, and that was my next thing on my notes here. I swear he's bringing up in the chat.
5-0 is a troublemaker, but go ahead.
Right, but he's a troublemaker, but perhaps I don't know. But anyway,
he or she is a troublemaker.
He or she is a troublemaker. Yeah, we just assume it's a he because we don't know if any women watch the show at all. So. Anyway, we'd love for that if they did. So he says Peter Angelo iced the puck 2 times to give the Sharks hope, and that is absolutely 100% true. And I am so sick. This is like, to me, this is people and and the whole like concept of computer imaging and like the running computer simulations. It shows that now we should no longer get over the siren line. We should just take a shot at the net. Like that's what people are being told.
No, that's wrong.
No.
It's 100% wrong, but there are people who with their Dianetics and everything like that, that are saying that's what
you're wrong too. Because
L. Ron Hubbard on the show, no, but what they should do, and easier said than done because I'm not on the ice and they are, is and everybody does the lob pass now. Everybody,
right.
That's what players should do when it comes.
Yeah, I don't understand why they don't do it.
Because then you're icing the puck, you're throwing it a deep pass.
The old Borja Salming play.
Yeah. Well, because the idea is you want to take as many ticks off the clock as you can,
right?
And if you're taking a shot, you're shooting it with fairly good speed. You've only wasted 3 seconds. Like it
but
didn't.
The crazy thing, and the crazy thing about this is people are doing this now when icing the puck allows the other team to change. And you not to as well. So not only has this whole thinking changed that you should now just take a shot at the net, but it really benefits you way less than it used to. Like it used to be that you could take a shot at it because at least you get a break.
Right.
So it's crazy that this is the way people are going. I mean, and but you're seeing it constantly, and some coaches won't let it happen. Like I think Columbus is one. Like Tortorella is you'll get benched if you do that. But for whatever reason, man, the Blues seem to not care, because I've noticed in every series that they've been in, Peter Angelo will ice the puck as many times as he can, literally on as many opportunities as he has. And last night it killed him twice. I mean, it destroyed him twice. And Logan Couture after the game said he was really thankful because he says I was really tired, and I love getting those icings. They're just like they really are a breather. And eventually Couture gets the game and it gets the game tire. Which at the end of the day, no matter what you want to say about the calls, the Blues blew it. They did blow it at the end of regulation. They should have won.
I want to see a game decided that way. If look, and San Jose could have scored 3 seconds after that if they had called that. They could have won a face-off and scored. But I think we'd all be better with that. It was a very important, deciding sort of game that was ended on a ref's call, and it's exactly what you don't want in a big-time conference final. That's it.
Yeah.
No matter what the sport.
And that's why and then we'll move off of this. I know I'm banging it, but that's why my point is that we need to do it like this, and not just like, okay, now we're to review hand passes. It's got to be something that is just anything that happens that's wrong within a certain period of time is just wrong, and we'll fix that. And then because it's not going to go from like we're reviewing offsides because of the Duchesne thing. Now we're going to review this because of the other thing.
But
I don't want to now do hand passes.
But there has to be a limit, is what I'm saying. I think we're on the same page.
Everything's done, Mike. You can do it quick enough. You can definitely do it quick enough if you have a guy pairs.
Right, but that's the problem. I don't think it can be quick enough. And they proved that review. There was a review early in the playoffs that was 5 minutes long.
That is going to happen sometimes, okay? And there's going to be instances like that where you're going to, but if you just do every goal instantly, because what happens now? A guy scores, yay, cheering, everything's happening. They're skating around, they slap the, and then the coach is looking before he sends his guys out. All this is going on now, so you take that element out of it altogether.
It's every sport. It doesn't matter.
I know, but you can easily review every goal if you're only reviewing within a certain period of time before the goal score. Okay. You can easily review it, or if you're reviewing.
The problem is these videotape machines are so big, and you have to keep rewinding these videotapes that it takes a lot of time.
When the new Betamax comes out next year,
we have a mouse and a bar, and we move the bar back and forth like we do on here. It's really crazy simple to make this work. And that's why that's the way the NHL has to go with it. Not to try to not the whack-a-mole. Let's review high sticks. Let's review this. Let's review that.
Actually,
everything that happens.
I'm going to go one better. I forget which game it was. It was one of the game 7s where the refs just literally. Oh no, you realize it was in the NBA. The Sixers game, the game 7. The referees basically didn't call anything. They let everything go. Guys were getting pushed. Guys were walking. They were just calling the most brutal of fouls, right? I would rather have that than what happened yesterday.
I agree.
I know. The problem with that, though, is Bill C would be crying, and if it was a Bruins game, he'd be calling every infraction. And a couple of guys on Twitter would be like, well, did you see that? They didn't even out. And did you see that? But you know what? End of the day, I'd rather him call nothing. Swallow.
Now, the funniest thing now to me is the conspiracy theories about the Sharks now, like on the internet.
I know.
It was like everyone who has been a Sharks fan for their lives, like for the lifeless Sharks, and I have been because when they first started, my wife was living out there. Anyone who has been around the Sharks knows that there is no way that there's a conspiracy theory that's benefiting the Sharks in the NHL. I understand that they're getting a ton of breaks with these calls, but they're not. And even though I actually admit that I put money down on the Sharks before the year, so I'm thrilled about all this, I can tell you that no, there's no way. No. It's not to get Joe Thornton to Stanley Cup. It's not to get Joe Thornton to play against the Bruins. That's really not that big of a story. They're not really that interested in that. Okay. It's not happening.
Couple little bits of news coming out of Dallas, and we can maybe talk some rumors and then the Boston, Carolina. Esa Lindell, one of their better young defensemen, signed a 6-year contract extension for $5.8 million. And as Russ and I were talking before the show, before he went live, Lindell was playing 30 minutes a night during the playoffs. So that's extremely valuable.
Yeah. He's their best penalty killer, and he gets points. He brings the puck up the ice. Give him the money.
Yeah. For sure.
They had salary opening up because Mathat's contract was expiring, so he's no longer in the picture. They already got Klingberg locked up long term. Heiskanen's on his ELC, so locking up Lindell made a lot of sense. The other news was, and Pierre LeBrun wrote about Jason Spezza in the Athletic today, that Spezza is likely not coming back with the Stars. He was on the last year of his contract, making over $7 million, and that. But he's 36 years old, but he still wants to play. So there are possible opportunities out there for a team looking for a veteran depth center. And I know that in the article he brought up Ottawa, which it would seem to be a waste because they're maybe they need veteran leadership, but they're not going anywhere and they're not going to spend any money. There was some,
but I've heard we might want to go there.
Maybe, but I've also heard, and I heard this last year, and that was brought up in a Twitter conversation with LeBrun about Toronto, because Spezza from the Toronto area, and I had heard last year that if they had not won the Tavares sweepstakes, one of the avenues they may have gone would have been to trade for Spezza if Dallas would have retained a significant chunk of their salary. And that made sense because they were looking to replace Bozak, and then Tavares signed, and that didn't make any sense. But their depth up the middle, especially if they trade Kadri, is questionable. I'm not saying that that's a long-term fix. It would be a one-year patchwork. And even if they don't trade Kadri, having Spezza as a fourth-line center, if they could get him to take a cheap contract, that might be interesting for the Leafs.
You know what? Here's the funny thing, Mike. Even at his age, you'd be better off signing Matt Cullen. He has a lot of 3 years, Jason Spezza does, even at the age of 40, 41, 42. Like Spezza.
You're
breaking up a little, Russ.
You're breaking up a little, Russ.
Internet issues.
Say that again.
Log in.
Who are you talking about?
Matt Cullen.
The Leafs would be better off signing Cullen because the last 3 years he had way more goals. Actually, he's had 11, and I think 9. Spezza's had like 4 and 6. And even though he's older, Matt Cullen is actually more suited for this league than Jason Spezza at this point.
You may be right, and that might be the direction that they go, although they really don't have any tie to Cullen in terms of usually he goes to places he has a previous tie to. But the overall theme, and just I'll just say, is Freddie Gauthier is horrible as a number 4 center, and they need to upgrade there, and they probably will. But anyway.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We're going to get on to some rumors in a second. I just want to first we'll touch on tonight, because we have the Bruins Hurricanes. I know it's funny how everyone's like, there's no way, and there's always a way, and even if Carolina wins tonight, I don't think they're going to win the series, but they could, and the bottom line is I still think that we have to. I expected a really strong game tonight, and I also want to throw a little bit of a shout out to the Carolina fans who were pretty amazing, and they were pretty amazing in the last game too, even though they've been really. I mean, that building is loud. I lived through that building in the Stanley Cup. That building is amazing. They stand the entire time, which is like a tradition that goes back to North Carolina basketball, I think, where they will stand the entire time.
First basket. Usually.
Yeah, they stand the entire time though. I mean, it's made. You'll see the bottom bowl of that building. When I was there for the Stanley Cup final games, the entire building stood the entire game, which I had never seen before ever.
At the Vegas betting line. I saw Vegas Insider and I saw a few others. Boston is a -120.
Yeah. Can Carolina win a game? Yes. Can they win the series? Not a chance.
I mean, they are a -120. There's nobody in Vegas that believes Carolina will win this game.
Right.
Yeah, no, I mean, this all the money's going to Boston. The Boston people are throwing money at this. There's not a whole lot of people betting on Carolina, so they got to do that. I mean, but I don't think I don't think this is a real sucker bet. I would not bet this game in a million years.
I wouldn't bet the game at all. I agree with you.
Yeah, this is there's no way that this is not a given, and
no, it's not. All.
No.
In Boston. I mean, it's very different too when a team tries to close a team out on the road in sweeps versus closing them out at home in sweeps. That's a big deal too, because for the Bruins, they're going back to Boston no matter what happens. It's not like they have to go to Carolina for game 5. Right. So they're going back to Boston after this game, whether they win or lose. That's what the Bruins are going to do. So that also plays into the mindset of players, because players definitely want to be home and they don't want to go out again. And that's something that I think when you're trying to close a sweep on the road, it's harder, way harder.
I'm just wondering if Carolina wins, whether Thomas Dundon will be sending the team economy or first class.
It's funny you say that, because the weird thing about there is a small rumbling out there that there could be a lot of hell to pay at the end of the Carolina season. That there's a lot of people that are still very upset about Dundon and the way he's done things within the organization, players and such like that are playing right now, and everything's fine because they're winning.
Yeah.
But when this is over, there could be another foot that falls here. You really could see it happening.
I can't remember who it was, but there's talk about Waddell either moving up to team president or changes in the organizational staff, changes in the media that covers the team. I mean, it's just stuff like that. And it's like, honestly, when your team has had such a success, you shouldn't be out there with a calculator or an abacus counting dollars and cents, but this is what this guy does. So that's why I think he's not exactly popular in this league.
Yeah. No, it's there's a lot of players and a lot of people in that organization. I mean, all the way up to Waddell, I've been told, that are that are not thrilled about a lot of stuff. Waddell does not want to be the general manager of that team,
right?
And they haven't. But they're unwilling to put money out. I mean, you would think, especially, because they made all this extra money with all these extra playoff games, that they should pay for friggin'.
Breaking news.
Go ahead, Russ.
Jim Schoenfeld has stepped down from his spot as senior VP and assistant GM of the Rangers. That's good news for the Rangers. No offense to Schoenfeld, but
that's basically a signal that the old boys network, the say their old boys network, is ending, because
John Davidson is probably heading your way.
He could be heading Buffalo way. He could be.
No,
JD. I've heard JD with Buffalo. I've heard JD with. I've heard all different. I've heard
no. JD will go to the Rangers. But the idea of this is, the problem is, for many years, Schoenfeld used to be the guy where they would ask him, "Hey, this guy in Hartford, is he ready?" And he didn't always get it right. Matter of fact, I think he got it wrong more than he got it right.
Well,
there were guys that were basically looked over, like Marchessault. Like, we can go through a whole list.
Right. The one thing that is scary, is that we know that Terry Pegula and Kim Pegula are very favorable to the Sabres alumni. So, it's possible that they could bring in Schoenfeld, but I'm not sure if Jason Botterill has the pull to prevent that from happening.
The other move they should make here that would really be a good one for them is bring back Larry Quinn.
Oh my God.
Larry, no, I'm serious.
We really want big nets. Like soccer.
No. Forget the net thing. Larry Quinn was a really solid Sabre guy. Like, and really made a lot of, and was responsible for a lot of good things that happened there.
Yeah, I'll grant that, but
he really was. And that when the way he kind of got screwed really rubbed a lot of people wrong around the whole league. So I don't know. I don't know if he would even go back there, but that would be something.
I'm going out on a limb. I don't think the Pegulas would want him back.
Yeah, which is really weird, because he actually is. There's nothing, I don't know what Larry Quinn did to wrong them, but he was one of the few people that actually could get things done in Buffalo and had a respect.
But there's a long laundry list of people that they have brought in that are no longer in the organization. Ted Black, Russ Brandon. It's that's just par for the course, and that's just the Sabres we're talking about. The Bills, it's the list is lengthy. So
there's a lot of people, but Quinn's from the organization before, like he was put out,
and that's the reason why he was part of the Golisano organization,
We should talk about McTavish going to Locomotive and the KHL is actually good for the Oilers too.
Yes, that's also a sign that Ken Holland is going to clean house.
It's a good sign, because McTavish had too much pull for a guy that, and look, I think he's a decent hockey guy, but there's the right spot for him. Yeah. And he always seemed to have way too much pull with decisions that were made with that team.
Right.
And I think it's good that they're going to start making them without him.
And one of the names brought up in Carolina in terms of a GM, if Waddell goes back up to team president, at least it was mentioned by Jeff Merrick and Elliot Friedman on their podcast last week, was Eric Tulsky, who's the analytics guy in Carolina, that he would be kicked up to GM. Right. And that's the direction that Dundon wants, and then they would be the poster child, like Florida was with their analytics group. And if they fail, then
what is going on is that Dundon just wants to be the GM of the team.
There's two things. That's one of them. And then the other one is, usually if a team is going heavy analytics, they're trying to save money. They're trying to find bargains.
Right.
They're definitely saving money, and they're not, because they're not bringing it's not a hockey. You need somebody who knows this sport, and for what it, for all it is, there's a whole culture to this sport, like that, and it goes on, and there's a language that's spoken in this sport among teams, and it's weird. It took us a while. I mean, I know it took me a while, Russ. I don't know, but and it just took me a while to, like, when I was going to these NHL events, to learn the way these things work. But when you finally do, there's a culture, and that's one of the reasons that some of these guys who get hired over and over again are successful, because they get that language, and it's usually important. You can't be underplayed. I don't think people are fair to Dundon all the time. Like if you own a team, yeah, sure, you're allowed to do what you want to with the team, but you should definitely at least be smart enough to know that you need to communicate with people.
Right.
And if you want to communicate with the rest of the league, want to communicate with the NHL office, you need a translator, and some of these guys with more experience have that ability to translate what's going on.
Yeah, you would think he would want more layers, not less.
Right. I think that's. I wonder how much of this is McTavish going to the KHL. It's really curious. Is this something that, like Holland said, you should probably go to the KHL type thing, or?
I think his future wasn't guaranteed in Edmonton, other than he's been. I've seen him in NHL press boxes. He's been scouting, Eastern Canada or in Western New York. Been Sabres games, been at Leaf games. So he's part of the. But they're going to revamp the entire organization. I mean, I'm sure Daryl Cates basically gave Ken Holland carte blanche to say, "I want you to eviscerate this team and start over."
Yeah, it's interesting. I really wonder how it's going to play out. It's a really curious thing, because still to this day, one of my favorite Stanley Cup finals to cover was Edmonton, Carolina, when you had McTavish and Laviolette at their best. They were great after game conferences.
Yeah, nobody was better than UC Markkinen. Nobody.
Remember that? Oh my gosh. The UC Markkinen thing was the craziest thing. I mean, people forget that Edmonton really got there on the back of Dwayne Rollison.
I know.
Who got hurt and didn't play at all in the Stanley Cup final.
Right. Ty Conklin.
Oh yeah, it was Ty Conklin and UC Markkinen who, and they still took that to 7 games. I mean, Edmonton really probably wins that if Rollison's healthy.
Yeah. They could have.
Yeah. They really could have.
That was a big factor, but that was a crazy series. But at any rate, this is good that some of these organizations are moving on from these guys, because again, sometimes you can hang around an organization too long, be too comfortable, and not make the right decisions.
Yeah.
And,
never seen that before here, Russ.
I'll give you another one.
Mention any names?
I'll give you another
names, numbers, retired numbers, players' names. Anyway,
I'll give you another one that might come to fruition, because it was talked about last year and it didn't happen because he still had a year left in his contract. Ron Francis's contract with Carolina expires at the end of June. There was talk about him at least have Ottawa having interest in him as their team president, and nothing came to fruition on that one. He is close to Kyle Dubas. He's got roots in Sault Ste. Marie, which is always a key with Kyle Dubas. I would not be surprised with Shanahan signing a 6-year deal as their team president that they bring on a layer of, say, a senior advisor, because it's Brandon Pridham, it's Lawrence Gilman, who might be a GM candidate for somebody like Seattle, and Dubas. So I think they've had other layers before. They lost it when Lou went to the Islanders. I wouldn't doubt that there's a possibility Francis would be part of the management team in Toronto.
In this era, you can't have too many skilled critical thinkers. If you have those guys, those are the guys you want. They really are.
It really is true.
Just think about the job that Ron Francis has done.
Yeah.
You might bitch if you're a Carolina fan that he wouldn't pull the trigger on a trade, and you might have the same gripes as Ron Hextall, but you're watching his team on the ice.
Now, that might be too low of a position for Francis, because he could be bucking for the Seattle GM job. He should be getting a lot of credit for.
Maybe he doesn't want to be a GM anymore. We don't know.
Right, and that's the thing. I mean,
and also GM of an expansion team, that's a whole different ball of wax.
It is a whole different thing too.
I mean.
He could come in he could come in as an advisor like Dean Lombardi is in Philadelphia, and just be that for a year or two, and to sort of regain what he wants, like live a life or something like that, and then maybe go back to being a GM. But I think it's a possibility.
Now, those advisor jobs are usually just ways of keeping guys fresh. Like keeping guys like they'll take that job just so they can stay in hockey for a while.
Yeah.
But they're usually not like. And I think Francis is probably bigger than that. I think Francis, you can probably get like Lombardi, that made sense. But I think with Francis, it's like a little different. Like, and I think that two names. I'll throw two rumors out to you really quickly before we get out of here today. And those are the names of Jordan Eberle and Matt Zuccarello. And where I think what I've heard so far. I want to talk to you about the Rangers and Zuccarello. Is there any chance for us that happens?
I think there's a 15% chance. I do.
Yeah, like small. Like I have it at 20, so it's about the same. The one team that I know the Stars want to bring him back. They do want to bring him back, and whenever
there's no question. But he's hedging it already. He is.
He is definitely. But here's another place that might pay him a ton of money, and that is Edmonton. This is what I've heard.
I think he's a good fit there. I said that last year.
Yeah, but they don't have
a ton of the playoffs actually.
But they don't have a ton of money.
They don't have a ton of money now, but
unless Holland starts to clean out,
going to move some magical things around there and it creates some space. And I think that he's looking for. This is the kind of player that Holland is definitely looking for. Two other places. So right now on the rumor chart, I have him at 40% to Dallas, 20% to Edmonton, 20% to New York, the Rangers, and 10% to Florida and 10% to LA. The other two teams I heard, but Florida definitely has an interest in a lot of people. Florida is going to be very active, and Zuccarello is definitely one of them. And LA, I think, is another good fit for him too. But as this plays out here, I'm looking towards Edmonton.
Can I just quick ask this question and see what either of you think? You think there is any NHL team or any NHL general manager that if Ken Holland calls them and says, "I will eat 50% of Milan Lucic's salary," would you take Lucic at $3 million?
Nope.
I do. I think there are people who will. Yeah.
I actually think Boston would.
Oh, I don't think Boston would at all. I don't.
No, he's
not doing that.
Like, you remember the Civil War that went on in Boston between Chiarelli.
Correct.
And remember, he went with Chiarelli.
Yeah.
So he went to Edmonton with Chiarelli. I'll tell you who could think about it.
That's not a Don Sweeney move. That's why he got Coyle, a younger version of Lucic.
Who can skate?
Who could do it would be New Jersey. New Jersey could do it.
They got tons of cap space. They could eat this,
and then they could use some rough toughness like him. He would actually be a really good fit for the Devils at a reduced rate. I think
that would help him get to the cap floor for a couple of years.
Right. No, so I think that's one team. And I think there's other teams too. Like I think I still think about maybe a little bit more. But New Jersey comes across instantly in my head. Beyond that, maybe Ottawa. I mean, Ottawa, because Ottawa's got to do some things to, some interesting things. Lucic is at least a name. They've got to sell tickets up there. Lucic is at least.
He wants to, be a fighter. Yeah.
He's entertaining to have, he's entertaining to have in the building. He's entertaining to have around the team.
Yeah.
So maybe Ottawa.
Trade him for Marian Gaborik.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. The other name I wanted to talk about was Jordan Eberle.
Okay.
Who we talked about yesterday a little bit. You guys don't think he's going back to the Islanders?
Nope.
It's surprising how good a season Eberle had.
Yeah, it was more second half driven though.
Yes,
it was. But at the end of the day, when you look at his stats, you're like, wow, Jordan Eberle was that good this year. It really.
I know, but you would say the same thing about JVR. Would you say JVR had a good season and you look at his goal total? I would say no.
Yeah,
I think Eberle is in that
because I saw him all the time, but sometimes these stats, like to people who don't see him day in and day out, they just look at the numbers.
That's true.
I think Eberle is in that middle ground because remember, I think what is he, Russ? 28.
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
Okay, I think he's in that middle ground. And Wayne Simmons is a few years older, but there are going to be veteran guys out there who are coming off okay or so years. Simmons, there's big question marks because I think he played terribly in Nashville, didn't do anything in the playoffs. I think these are veterans who are going to have to take like a 2-year deal for mid money. They're not going to get a long-term deal, and they're too good to take 1-year deals. I think Eberle is in that group. I think Simmons is in that group.
I do want to put the brakes on, like Cam Young is saying, Eberle to the Rangers. The Rangers don't need Jordan Eberle. They don't.
No. Eberle could be a good fit for a team that is looking for scoring that has centers.
Yeah.
Okay, Jordan Eberle is the main. There's one team. I've written about this. You guys probably saw it, but I may have not seen it because I know you don't read anything I write. But
I knew that you wrote.
There is one team that is targeting Jordan Eberle, I've been told, as their number one priority, which I was kind of surprised.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, there's always somebody that
team would be Montreal.
Okay.
And I think it makes sense for Montreal to get Jordan Eberle. And it's something I've always liked. I mean, Montreal has always liked Jordan Eberle. My gosh, I can't remember how many rumors I've written about Jordan Eberle with Montreal over the years, but it's crazy.
If the price point is right. That's the thing. It's like if the price is right.
That's always true, right? I mean, that's always the case.
But I'm talking like Montreal is not, because Montreal has cap space and they need to add offense, so that fits. But if you're talking about Jordan Eberle signing a 5-year deal for $5 million, that's not happening. I'm saying if he'll take a short-term deal for reasonable money, I could see Montreal being interested. I could see a number of teams being interested. If he's looking,
it's not like he's not going to get taken. He's just not going to get the salary he probably thinks he would have gotten 2 years ago.
Right. I mean, he's gonna have to be flexible with his demands, like Eric Stahl was after Carolina and with the Rangers. Eric Stahl was one of the best contracts signed when Minnesota signed him for, what was it, 3 years at $3 million?
Yeah.
And he scored 40 goals. Teams in this cap era are looking for players like that. They can't overpay. Like Toronto can't overpay, Winnipeg can't overpay, Tampa can't overpay. And they would like to bring in a veteran guy. But if they get them for a reasonable salary, then you're talking turkey.
All right.
I think Eberle gets to $6 million per year. Which I would never have thought before the beginning of the year.
I would never pay him $6, but he might.
I would say 3 years at $4 million.
He's getting $6 million now.
Doesn't matter.
Remember he signed the initial contract. So
that contract was a boat anchor. That's why Edmonton.
It was, and that's why I got traded on stuff. But I don't. But he had it coming off of his best season. So it's
he's not going to make the same amount of money he made on that deal with Edmonton.
But he wasn't consistent, Eck. And again, teams know they're going to look at consistency and they're going to say, all right, yeah, he did have a nice finish to that year. He still didn't score 20 goals. So, like, you're talking about him like it's a great year. He had 37 points. Like, he had a better playoff than he did a regular season.
Right.
He had 5 game-winning goals.
And that's what's interesting. The interesting thing about Jordan Eberle is that, that he is a clutch playoff type guy. So,
yeah, but he's not enough to get $6 million.
Yeah, probably not. But he might. I don't know. Probably not. I mean, I'm going to agree with you on this one, but I think that that there definitely is talk out there that he's going to get a lot more than people think. And Montreal really has their eyes on him. So
honestly, it might be better. It might be more beneficial and better for him to bet on himself, to take a 1-year deal in a good scenario where he could score. Like Jeff Skinner got traded, but Jeff Skinner has set himself up for a big contract because he went to Buffalo, he scored 40 goals. If Eberle went to the right scenario, say he signed a 1-year deal with the Blackhawks and played with Kane and Taves, something like that, and scored 35 goals, he'd set himself up for the kind of contract you're imagining, Ak.
Yeah, no, that's true, just for sure. And he's the kind of guy who will play with skill players like that.
Before we sign off, the biggest question that everybody needs to have answered, and this is sensitive. Did you have a falling out with Gritty? Because I see his head on a stick, and I want to know, are the cops coming for you?
No, but I have to pay $600 per show to have Gritty back there, which is really, really killing me as far as making any money on this show. Gritty, $6,000 an hour. Pretty amazing. Yeah, no, Gritty and I have always gotten along pretty well. Surprisingly, despite my writing about the psychological experiment that he was, pretty well.
Bring me the head of Gritty.
Yep. All right, we got to get out of here. Remember, without the buzz, folks, it is just hockey. Enjoy the game tonight. We will be back tomorrow because tomorrow we're going to talk about that great St. Louis San Jose rematch, which will be quite the rematch tomorrow night because that game last night definitely set up for some high emotions in this series at this point. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you